suggest, please, that if I ramble on, as I'll try not to, you just shout at me and ask me any questions that you'd like as we go. Because sometimes, you have something in your head, you think, I'll keep this till the end and I'll ask the question, and then you forget because somebody's rambled on. So please do interrupt me at any point just by doing that, and I will gladly continue. I'm fascinated by what Stephanie was just saying to us, because I'm kind of almost the opposite. I come from a different place in a different way. And I have to say, I have researched Stephanie's books and other books, because I'm not really a cosy crime writer. I'm a bit of a kind of person who is spoofing it as I go, because my first books are books about second chances and older people, if you like, people over 40, and uplifting books about people, particularly women, but men too, of course, because they exist, who have a really exciting life and come back with a surprise for everybody. So this was my first genre. I was published, same as Stephanie, in, what was it, 2018? Since then I have written 26 books. I don't know, I've forgotten, I'm not good at counting. I just write them. So I started off leaving work thinking I've had enough of this. And I went and did a master's because I wanted to know how to write books. So these were my first books. I did my master's in Cornwall. That was really enlightening. And I thought I'll get an agent and I'll go and write books. And so I did. I got a contract with HarperCollins, who are really good and really nice and really big. And I started to write these books for people, for my mum really, because my mum didn't want books about young women who were having nice little frippy times. She wanted books about older women who went out and did interesting things. And of course she couldn't get out much then, so the books helped her to get where she wanted to go. So after a while, I left HarperCollins, I went to Boldwood Books, who are my current publishers, whom I love. And my agent said, what do you think about writing in a different genre? So I said, yeah, okay, what genre? So my editor said, can you write like Barbara Erskine? Of course I said no, because she's brilliant. Barbara Erskine's brilliant. So can you write that sort of dual timeline thing? I went, yeah, okay, I'll give it a go. So I wrote The Witch's Tree, which is set in my house. And this is in Somerset. And I love writing these. These are the best, most fun, most exciting things to write, because you've got a dual timeline, so you can go and research a place, you can go back in history. And they've got a little bit of a ghosty thing going on. I have to say at this point, I don't know if I believe in ghosts or not, but it's got a bit of a ghosty thing going on. I love writing these to bits. So this is my second genre. So at this point, there was no crime, there was nothing cozy, it was all going really well. Then all of a sudden, we started to talk about the American market. And the American market loves cozy crime. And what was explained to me was that cozy means you don't actually see the murder and the blood and the guts. You actually find out about it once it's done. And then after that, it's quite wholesome and clean and nice as only murder can be. So I was asked, could I write one? And it would be pushed towards the American market. Unlike Stephanie, I don't pick any of my titles, I'm not allowed. I've got not a clue what sells, I've not got a clue about what is marketable, they do it for me. And long may it continue, because I can just get on with writing books. So and another big difference between me and Stephanie, and I'm fascinated by this, because in researching cozy crime, I read some of Stephanie's, I read Richard Cole, I love what she called that clever lady who runs around and solves crimes. Agatha Raisin, I love her. And lots of others, and it came to me that what I wanted to do, not unlike Stephanie, was to have a strong woman sleuth who wasn't a police officer or someone who comes from that kind of background, but just an ordinary person like the rest of us, who sort of crimes fall in her lap and she gets to solve them because she's bright. She's a bright, sharp person. So this is actually set in Falmouth, which is where I did my master's, but I didn't call it Falmouth. I didn't call it anything like that because I was terrified somebody would find me out and say, that's not in that road, that person doesn't exist, you can't go in that hotel, it doesn't exist anymore, that person lives there, not that person. So I thought, I'll call it Seal Bay. So they were quite happy with me calling it Seal Bay, and I wrote about a woman called Morwenna Mutton, who is a Cornish lady who's in her 60s, who's got a mum in her 80s, a daughter in her late 20s, and a very naughty granddaughter who is a real little Hella, real little character. So we have Dartmoor here and we have Cornwall here. So I did okay with this one. I managed to write it. I found it quite taxing because I'm a bit of a pantser. Those of you who are familiar with that expression will know what I mean by it. It's people who write books by the seat of their pants without a clue what's going next. Now, the reason that suits me, other than the fact that that's kind of in my nature just to fly by the seat of my pants, is because I don't know what's going to happen. And if I don't know what's going to happen, then the reader won't know what's going to happen. And if they don't know what's going to happen, they might actually enjoy it. So I've been flying by the seat of my pants with all of my books. The second one that came up was Bloodshed on the Boards. Now, I've got a background in theatre, so I know all about the boards. I don't know a lot about bloodshed. That's where I had to do a lot of research. And actually, I'm going to stop and tell you a secret. If the police come in now, for either me or Stephanie, please don't be surprised. Because this week I've started on a new series, which I'll tell you about in a little minute. And in that, I've had to research how you kill your husband with arsenic, how many minutes it takes a body to die. It's not very cosy, is it? How to wrap and hide narcotics. So in my Cozy Crime, there are all these things that I have to research online. Fortunately, I've got a friend up the road who's a copper. If I get nicked, he'll bail me out. The third one I wrote was The Queen Tea Killer. And by this point, I was kind of easing myself into writing Cozy Crimes. Because in between that, I'm writing all of these and all of these. I do probably 5 books a year, which is quite a lot when you consider that's 75,000 and that's 90,000. So it is quite busy. And the real problem is when you're in the middle of writing something, as I am at the moment, and then your editor sends you an edit in and says, can you get this into me by Monday, please, because we need to move it to the next stage. And you go, am I doing crime? Am I doing dual timeline historians? What shall I do next? And you just roll with it. I'll name drop a moment because I think this is quite special. Some of you will have heard of Matt Haig, who was a tutor of mine at Falmouth. And he said, if you tell your reader what is going to happen next, they won't enjoy the story. Always don't know what you're doing yourself. Don't have a clue where you're going, because if you don't know, they won't know, and they will love you for it. And so that's my excuse every single time. If I don't know where I'm going, that's fine, Matt told me I could do it. So the third one's The Queen Tea Killer. By this point, I'm really getting to enjoy writing Cozy Crimes. And so they asked me if I'd write a Christmas one, which I have to point out, Stephanie's got a Christmas one coming soon too, because they like the Christmas books. This came out in August. Imagine in August, you're holding up a book that says mince pies and murder. And everybody's going, don't talk about Christmas yet, please don't. But actually now it's coming up to October, this is getting quite popular. So this is the one in which I finished the whole series. I wanted, unlike Stephanie, I'm amazed that you keep going like this, I wanted to finish at 4. There are 2 reasons why I wanted to finish at 4. One is I wanted to end with a massive bang, and this does end with a huge, literal bang. And I can conclude what happens to Morwenna, I can conclude what happens to a family, I can tie up all the loose ends that I know you've got going through yours, and it's really exciting to do that. Plus, I've got a new one. And I didn't really want to write anymore. I thought, no, I'll just concentrate on the other 2 genres, that's enough for me, I want to go and have a life. But they offered me the chance to write another series. And the problem is, if you're a girl who just can't say no, that's where you are. And, I said no, and sort of shall I, shan't I? And when they dangle that carrot, I've created this new character, and I just can't wait to write more and more. And this is a different character altogether. My publisher said to me, can you write a man? Of course I can. Men are people, I can write men. Can you write a copper? Yeah, okay, I can do that. So I went and researched men coppers, because there are some of them about. I've got a few living down the road from me. And they're quite interesting people. And once you start digging a bit, which is what we do as writers, we dig an awful lot. I came up with a character that I really like. And I don't want to tell you too much about this, but And I had such fun writing this man. And my publisher said, well, there's a real kind of famous and positive genre of people travelling and finding a crime wherever they go. So I love this because it flips completely differently. One location, will you write somebody who's travelling? So I stick my copper in a Volkswagen camper van, and off he goes around France. And he's going to the Dordogne, death in the Dordogne. Then he's going to go to Bordeaux, a body in Bordeaux. Then he's going to go to Provence, which I think is poison in Provence. And then he's going to Monte Carlo, and I'll let you guess what happens there, but it begins with an F. So that will be my next 4 that I'm going to do, which I'm all lined up to do. I'm going to write the first 2 back to back because I'm on a roll. You know, you start writing, you can't finish, keep going. I'll pause it a minute. Does anybody want to ask me anything? Because I've rambled. No? So that is where I am with Cosy Crime, and I'm going to read you a little bit. Now, the problem is, being a writer, I'm blind as a bat, so I may not be able to see what's written. But this is Cream Tea Killer. I don't like reading bits out of my books because it's sort of, it begs the question, who is she, who are they, who are you talking about, when I've got to bring all these names up. So Morwenna is my main character, Morwenna Mutton. Her mother is Lamorna. Her daughter is Tamsin, and the little Hella is Elowyn. And at this point in the story, Morwenna is on board a boat. Morwenna gazed around the deck. It was crowded, people talking and drinking. She moved to a quiet place where the lights were dimmer, and she leaned against the rail, closing her eyes, feeling the cool sea breeze lift her hair. She inhaled the sharp salt of the sea, enjoying the moment of peace that came with it. The sea was in her blood, the ice water, the whispering of the waves. Her mind drifted to ruin. So at the time they'd taken a small boat out when Tamsin had been a little bit older than Elwyn was now. It had been an open 16-foot tiller-driven boat in the old clinker style, built by Damien Woon and his father. It was called the Kraken. They'd had such fun as a family. Morwenna could picture them now, laughing, enjoying the rise and jolt of the waves, spotting dolphins and seals in the bay. They'd been the best times. She realised what was happening a split second too late, as the stench of sweat filled her nose, the sharp tang of too strong cologne. Someone had their arms around her. Morwenna twisted, trying to turn, but she was heaved up over the rail and shoved hard. She screamed as her body fell through the air and hit the water with a crash. There was nothing she could do. She sank below into the depths, plummeting down, her clothes waterlogged and heavy, her arms flailing. The cold took her breath away as she closed her eyes for a moment. Then she surfaced and gulped for air. It was important to be calm, to think straight. She reminded herself that her heart rate was increasing, reducing blood vessel size, increasing blood pressure. What should she do next? Think. She fought the urge to thrash around in the water. The initial shock would pass in less than a minute. She summoned all her strength, tried to focus her mind, and floated on her back, breathing steadily. She flipped over, treading water, keeping herself afloat, staring up at the side of the ship, her breath coming in huge gulps. A loud horn blared from somewhere high above, voices shouting. Someone was yelling from the rails, throwing a lifebelt. It fell in the water, and a spotlight picked it out, orange and a bright yellow beam. She swam towards it, her heart thumping in her ears, and grasped hold tightly. A voice shouted again, loud instructions, and someone threw a rope. It was Rick Tremaine. Morwenna hung on for dear life, staring up at the ship through water-filled eyes, shivering violently. She had a hunch who'd heaved her over the rail, but who had told them to do it? Who was the person on board who wanted her dead? So that's a bit of a da-da-da moment, isn't it? Where you think to yourself, okay, there's a lot of excitement in writing Cosy Crimes. And I think Stephanie and I agree on this. You know, we like to be right in the middle with these exciting characters, kind of trying to find a way to find answers to problems, but also, like Agatha Radinow, I love, in the cut and thrust of mischief. Morwenna is a very mischievous character. One of the things she'll do is kind of impersonate other people. There's a time where she goes into one place and pretends she needs a haircut. She's got this like long grey hair and she doesn't want it cut. But she goes and pretends that she needs a haircut simply to find out what she can about one of the characters who's in there. So she's good at impersonating, she's good at playing tricks, she's good at mixing it up and having some fun. And I think one of the things that makes Cosy Crime quite special and quite saleable is that it's got humour in it. Now that might seem a bit silly that if we're talking about people being murdered, there's humour in it, but actually it's quite a kind of dire subject really, and you've got to have a lightness in it that makes it, just lifts it at moments where you feel to yourself, if I didn't go down this, I'd be talking about a thriller or something that's quite dark and suspenseful. So we try and write something that's light and that's bubbly. If you read Stephanie's, the character Juno is a lively, bubbly character. And I think that's really what propels good cosy crimes. If you read some Richard Osman, a lot of his characters are very bubbly, very light, and very fun. And I think that's your balance really with the cosy crime. Not that I'm a great expert, because it's the third string to my bow. Some of you will have received, I put them on your chair, some of the freebies from my publisher. So Eleanor Collins is my grandma's name, actually. It's not my name, it's my grandma's. And it's the name of the character, the name of the author who does the dual timelines. So that's that lot. This lot is me, Judy Leigh. That's the first book that I wrote, the first persona that I have. Now, interestingly, these come out under Judy Leigh. I'm interested in this. I'm interested in a lot of this stuff that goes on with publishers and marketing, because I wouldn't be here if I didn't have a publisher or a marketer. I'm not any good at it. I'm not really even very interested in it, except that it's a living and we all need to make a living. But what's really good about publishers and marketers, and I think Stephanie touched on this when she was talking about the titles of her books, is that they know what they're doing and I haven't a clue. That is why I'm completely trusting in them when they send me an edit in and they say, can you get rid of 1,000 words? Of course I can. Can you write a little bit more about this person's emotions here? Of course I can. Can you write a bit more about the description of this particular? Of course I can. Because they know what they're doing and I trust them entirely. And I've met people who've said, how can an editor tell you to change your book? Yes, please. Because they are clever, intelligent people who've learned a trade. And, I'm an amateur from 2018 who's written 26 books or whatever, but I'm really learning all the time. Once I stop learning, I'll get less good at what I'm doing. So learning for me is absolutely everything. So J.R. Leigh is a name, it is my name. I'm not telling you what the R is for. If I told you, I'd have to kill you. But that is what they like to do because it's kind of neither male nor female. And a lot of crime writers are male who call themselves 2 letters and a name. And there's a kind of thing to hide behind here, where people look at a book and they go, oh, J.R. Leigh, that must be a clever person, it's a man. Or J.R. Leigh, somebody got cross because I had the same name as that one. And they thought that when they were reading this, they were reading one about uplifting passion stories for older ladies. And so I think that distinction is really important. And my publisher knows absolutely what they're doing. So I trust them implicitly in almost everything. They choose my titles for me. Some of my titles, I'll be honest with you, I absolutely loathe. Here's one. The Silver-Haired Sisterhood. I mean, what does that even mean? It's a bit exclusive. But the minute you pick this book up, you know what it's about and who it's about. And that's why they're clever, and that's why I trust them implicitly. So I'll pause at this juncture to say, does anybody have a little question? I know we're doing big questions later. So the nice one at the back.
Do you still see yourself as doing the 3 genres? Or have you sort of moved on? Because you said about old women, and then you said about dual timeline, and then into cosy crime.
Yeah. I have 3, as it were, balls in the air all the time. All the time. So my next one of these comes out in January. My next one of these comes out in December. So quite often I'll have a book out the next month after the next. It is quite a lot of work, but I like to keep those 3 balls moving. Does somebody at the back need some water? You good? The lovely lady here.
I just got a bit muddled, Judy, about J.R. Leigh.
Yeah.
None of them come out as J.R. Leigh, do they?
Right, they do now.
They do
They
now.
do now. If you look on Amazon, where I suggest,
Right.
don't. But if you look on Amazon, now all my books, the first one, which was the one where somebody got confused because they thought it was about ladies having, which it is, there's a romantic bit in there about an older lady, so that's fine. But that's where they come out now. So I don't do any of this. I don't do the title. I don't do the picture. I do get asked if I like it. So my approval is sought. And I also, and this is the big one for me, I do pick the actors in the audiobooks. And that's so important because you have a thing in your head that tells you what they sound like, and you have to match that with the person.
You're very lucky.
Yeah?
Yeah.
No, I insist
never
on
given
it.
the opportunity.
I absolutely insist on it. So, Darren, have we got time for a little bit more?
Well, can we just say thank you, and can we bring both you and
Yeah,
Sophie into this?
absolutely.
Let's just thank Judy Leigh first.
Yeah.